Aren't you worried you're spreading it a little thin? This is where we do Amiga stuff.
Okay, Boat. Sorry, man. It'll never happen again. I'll take it right off the wheel. I'm sorry about that, man. I'm sorry, man. I promise. I'll take it right off the wheel. I'm sorry.
Fireball.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a quick turnaround edition of ARG Presents. I'm your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who's never turned around quickly in his whole life. I give you the Brent.
That's not true.
When did you turn around quickly?
When you leave the buffet, you have to turn around to get back to it.
Valid point. Also, when you head to the bathroom. So, if you missed us just a few days ago, if we're watching live, we spun the wheel. We made the deal, the exciting deal. Well, it could have been exciting. It could have been horrible because it was chat choice. But thank goodness that we picked Amiga Cammy's choice this week because we're going to be doing BAM, Swords and Sorcery.
Yes.
Swords and Sorcery games. That's a good broad topic.
That's a very broad topic.
That's right,
yes.
but we needed something broad for this one because we need something that we can jump into immediately.
Yes.
So, you know, I thought about various choices for this because you could go in many different ways for Swords and Sorcery. We both instantly came up with the same game. It's quite amazing, actually, especially for me. But I mean, when you think Swords and Sorcery games, do you think RPGs? Do you think action games? What comes into your mind? And name a few of the ones that you think are good.
Well, if you're going to say Sword and Sorcery, I typically will think action-venture.
Right.
Your Links, the games we picked, especially games like beat 'em ups, Knights of the Round, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think we went very in the same direction. We definitely went.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
What do you? I didn't get it. I thought they were pretty different games.
Oh, they're very different games, but we're both swording and boarding over here.
Well, we didn't pick RPGs. That's for sure.
Yeah, and at least I picked a guy that does some magic.
Yeah. Well, you know, I looked when I went to choose this, and I will say I had an inspiration for this game because, to be honest, I never played it until this week.
Yeah.
But I thought about, okay, what are the genres of Sword and Sorcery that I can get into here? And I thought, okay, stuff like Eye of the Beholder or the Gold Box series of the D&D world. You can play any of the D&D games. You can even play the D&D beat 'em ups, which I think we already played on the show. But you know, those are all prime ways to go. You could also play text games, Zorks, Wizardries were in the mix, Ultimas were in the mix.
Your JRPGs.
There's a whole flurry of stuff, Lord of the Rings type games. They were all there. But when I picked the game I picked this week, I thought to myself, what is something I've never heard of that looked enticing to me, that fits the motif? And I'll explain more into it when I get into my game. But I'm happy with what I chose because I'd never played it before. And I like to try stuff that I haven't played before.
Yeah.
Now, we both had played your game, but I thought that was my first choice because we both, when we walked out of here, after we spun the wheel and chat gave us the pick, I think we both had that game in mind instantly, which is a wonder.
Well, it's a huge part of my youth.
Yeah. So
and that's why I picked it.
Aside from the game that you picked, do you recall, and maybe the mainstream stuff, is there any low-end Sword and Sorcery games that you got into?
Yeah, the other game I own. Got into, I don't know about that. Deadly Towers.
Oh, man.
That's the only other game that I owned for the NES for the longest time outside of the pack ends.
There were a lot of games I thought of that we'd already played. Sword of Sudan was one that instantly came to mind because of that one you could actually perform both magic and with a sword. That game Trojan is another one I thought about because that's got a wizards in it and you also have a guy with a sword and a shield.
Yeah, but that's also set in like a post-apocalyptic time.
Hey, nothing here said you had to play something in the past. You could, or in a fantasy world, you could play anything.
I was thinking of the one, I can't remember the name of it, where you see through your character and you've got the shield and the guys come at you, sort of like it starts with a C, like Caleb or. You're killing me here, Aaron. Help me out.
You got me.
You're leaving me out to dry.
You got me on this one.
Anyway, it's a sword and sorcery game where you move in the foreground left and right.
Yeah.
And when you walk, it's sort of like your game. You're walking into the path.
Yeah.
And things attack you, and they'll jump into your attack range and then back out. And you have sorcery as well.
Yeah. Also, I was thinking of what we played on the show that would fit this bill, and I actually stole the box cover off one, which is Sword of Forgul. If you'll recall that one from the Big 20, I believe. So we played that one on, and that was a fun one.
The unfortunate thing was, since this was a very short week, any kind of complicated or involved, like real role-playing game, your Final Fantasy types, we couldn't have done any justice.
I have trouble doing those in a full week, to be honest with you. That's why, I mean, some people, we do on Amigos, we do have a role-playing night every month or so. But depending on how difficult that game is, it can be quite a trial. But then again, so can Sims or whatever. So, but I actually, when it comes to these sorts of games, these are the kind of games I like to play. I should mention that we just played a great game that would have fit this bill on the Coco show last month. That was a real fun. So there are tons and tons of different options. You can go down the line. That's what I liked about the topic, was nice and broad. And I think we picked a couple games that were way different. So, Brent, I'm going to let you lead the show off this week. What did you bring to the table?
I went back to my youth, and I chose Wizards and Warriors for the NES.
Yes. Now, this is one we owned you owned back in the day.
Yes. This is one of my two, like I said before, non-pack-in games. This, of course, released by Rare, published by Acclaim. Aaron, did you know this was a 1987 release for the U.S.
Right.
It didn't get released in Europe until 1990.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I have no idea. It was released in Japan in 1998. This was the first Nintendo game to have a fully Western release. It was Western developed and Western published through Rare and Acclaim.
How do you know how far into Rare's existence this game? Because when I was typing this up, and it was Rare, I never, as a kid or a young person, I never noticed who developed it, and I was surprised that it was Rare. I was like, wow, I can't believe it.
This was Rare's second game on the Nintendo. Do you know their first that came out just months earlier?
Was it that god-awful fortune-telling game?
No.
Was that one of theirs?
That came much later.
That was one of theirs,
yeah,
though. At least I remembered it.
No, Slalom, the skiing game.
Okay.
That was their first.
I'm not sure I played that one.
Oh, yeah, you have.
All right, okay.
Yeah, you almost certainly played it in the arcade. You actually stand on the skis and lean left
Did we have to use the athletic pad for that?
No. I don't know if you could do that in Slalom or not.
That might have made that a lot more fun.
In the arcade, you actually stood on the machine and moved left and right.
Oh, yeah, I played that,
and at the
Rare developed that, or just the home version?
No. Whoa, I don't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I know they did the home version for the NES. But back to the topic at hand, Wizards and Warriors, a very unique game. This was also one of the first games, because, of course, in the early days of consoles and computers both, a lot of developers never saw their names. The games didn't have credits. You were lucky if your developing team got mentioned. Unless you were doing a solo project that you could put your name under the title screen or something, you were kind of lost. This game kind of broke a little bit of that, not completely, but like the music in this game, the guy that did the music did music for a crap ton of NES games, tons of famous stuff. He was huge on the scene, and he actually got credited at the end on your end scroll. But Wizards and Warriors, you control a wonderful knight, a classic knight, full suit of armor, including the bucket head helmet.
Yeah. Long sword.
Long sword. And you are tasked with going through and saving different maidens in each zone, and to eventually take on the big bad wizard at the end. A few tidbits, Aaron, before we get into the game proper. Did you know that they made a novelization about this game?
No. Was that before or after the game came out?
After the game came out. There was a set of books that would do children's short stories
Yeah.
for different NES games that kind of took their game world and expanded on it.
How neat.
One of those was Wizards and Warriors. Also, in the Saturday morning Nintendo Power cartoon show, he was not a mainstay, but he did the hero and the villain both got a episode devoted to them, and he was able to live on in an animated form.
That's kind of neat. No, I didn't know that either.
This game, obviously, super well known for its music and its incredibly brutal difficulty.
Yeah.
This was before. I mean, Rare also did things like Battletoads, so difficult games was not, outside of their wheelhouse. But one thing that this game does that none of those other games do is when you die, you just die right where you are, and if you continue, you pop right back up.
Which I appreciated that like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you still have to be good enough to get through the level with the health allotted to you. But being able to literally stand up right where you were can get you through some tough situations and let you get to the boss. The game flow of this game is you have to collect X amount of gems. And you can tell this is right after the computer era was starting to die off and consoles were starting to pick up, because you had to collect X amount of gems, depending on what level you're on, to pay the bounty, to pay the bribe, I should say, of the guard that will allow you then access to the big bad boss.
I do like the fact that your brave knight just pays off the guy not to fight.
Yeah.
That's kind of, and on all the levels, you're paying the guy so you don't have to fight him. And he ain't cheap, brother.
No, he gets some levels. He's incredibly expensive. So you have to explore these incredibly large levels, finding different chests, different keys of different colors, which will allow you access to different doors and different colored chests for to get what's inside of those. You can pick up magical items. When you start the game, you literally just have your longsword, and your attack range is just nothing.
It's real
so
bad.
minute.
Yeah.
However, quite quickly in the game, you do get the dagger of throwing, so you can throw the dagger and it'll come back to you, and you have sort of a ranged weapon at that point. The problem with the dagger is it's slow.
Right. Without that, that makes the game a lot better for me. Was that throwing dagger?
Of course. But that's not the only weapons and stuff that you get in this game. You have a huge plethora of stuff. Some of the most famous stuff is the boots of levitation.
Yeah.
Where you can hold up on your control panel and your little guy will float off whatever ledge you are a little bit, about the half the size of a jump, and that will allow you to get access to higher platforms. Now, Aaron, this was before double jump was really a thing in most video games. This was kind of the precursor to it, kind of the lead-in. You also, of course, got magic wands, the force boots, which allow you to actually kick, and on top of being able to kick your enemy, which is a horrible idea because things are coming at you so fast and furious, you could kick chests open. So if you ran across a chest and maybe it was a pink chest and you didn't have the pink key yet, screw it. Boot that thing. Crack that thing right open and collect the goodies inside. It had so many little aspects like that it makes the game so enjoyable. It is, as we stated before, incredibly difficult. The enemies are coming at you non-stop. The levels they're not mazes as in, you got to know whether to go left or right and then make choices like that all the way through it. But they're so vast, you can get turned around, especially when you have to go on and on and on to get to point A to get a key and then backtrack to get to point B to use that key. But for me, especially in my youth, because I would have been, 10 when this came out.
Wait a minute, you're saying you were how old?
Yeah, I was 10 at the time. So I think I got this for a birthday present.
Yeah.
And loved it. I love that it was difficult because I was a rent 'em and beat 'em kind of kid back in the day.
Yeah.
And this being that you could get up right where you left off, stand up and continue that way, it allowed me to play this game ad nauseum. I've beaten this game dozens of times.
Beaten the whole game.
Dozens of times. And you can actually explore and find items that you didn't find the first time through. And some of the items are very mysterious. The Cloak of Darkness. It turns your guy invisible. What good does that do? Because the enemies can still hit you, but they can't, if they throw a fireball or something, it doesn't home in on you. At least that's what it's supposed to do. If it actually kind of works. But this is a huge part of my childhood. I played it to death. The characters look, the sounds of this game, everything about it is just ingrained into my head. It was such a joy to come back and play some more of. What did you think of this one, Aaron?
Well, I remembered you having this back in the day because we didn't have. This isn't like today. Like you had to get whatever games you owned.
Yes.
And so we didn't own that many NES games. We had a handful. We rented them. You would rent them.
Tons, yeah.
But we didn't have that many. I was mostly still playing on the Coco, but I would want to play NES sometimes. And so this game was always available. But I wasn't the biggest fan because it was so hard.
Yeah.
And it was a foreign type game to someone like me.
Sure.
Who came from the computer world and didn't play that much NES. It was just a different sort of game.
Although it definitely had aspects of Amiga games and those type of games. The collection aspect, the super large level aspect.
Yeah.
I would associate those with the computer games for sure.
Well, I mean, it was different. To me, I thought it was a strange game, and I thought it was also really tough. And I will say, coming back to it, I enjoyed it actually because I've honed my skills a lot since those days, and I actually had some success. And I put a picture up in Discord where I beat a level, which that
yeah, I
was so happy. It was funny to get back into this thing because you remember how incredibly frustrating it is. Because everything gang beats you all the time when you're outside the caverns.
Yes.
And in the caverns, you're still dealing with stuff all the time. There's no let up.
No.
Now, when you get to on through the game, it's not. There are some levels where it aren't as bad. But on the first level, they don't give you any break. It's like nonstop crap. And I don't mean like bats. I mean like weird-looking creatures running at you with their arms up like, blah.
Yep.
It's like, my God, how can I get through this thing? And the answer is continues because you're going to die a lot. But I will say, if you're playing this for the first time, wait till you get the throwing dagger. That will make the game a lot less
and you get it super
horrible.
Early on.
Yeah, and then once you get that, you can actually cause some damage. I like the fact that you start right where you left off. I like the fact that they'll take all your stuff away, which is good. Clearly, if you're going to make a game kind of tough, this is the way you do it. You make it kind of tough, but you give the player a break. No one wants to start over. You
can definitely grind through this. And beating this using as few lives or as few continues as you can. Yeah. Because you do lose your score. That's the one thing you do lose. So, although I never played this for a high score game, you could play this and say, man, I got this far and I got this score before I had to continue. That's really good. It gave you something to strive for.
There are a lot of, you have to get X amount of gems to get through to a different part of the level, which is cool. Again, you are right. It is more of a European-style adventure game, but I did appreciate the hidden areas.
Tons of them, too.
This has we've played a ton of ZX Spectrum games, and we've played games like Manic Miner. They have a lot of jumping in them. But this game has, I wouldn't call it pinpoint accurate, but you have to learn how to jump off the edge of the cliff. Yeah. In a lot of places. But you can do it, and you'll get better at it. And this game, I will say, when you plummet in this game, as your knight flails out of control after he's fallen too far, you don't die, thankfully. You just stun for a minute. But you die inside because there's nothing worse than being on the inside of a tree or going up to a cave or something and then missing that ledge or accidentally jumping twice when you didn't mean to, and then you fall all the way down to the bottom. You got to start over. So there's a lot of that in this game. If that's a problem for you, this is not the game for you.
Although this game does give you the tools to kind of get around that. Not only do you get the boots of levitation that helps you get a little higher, right. You also get the feather of feather fall, which when you're falling, you can hold up and use it as a kind of a glider type thing. So I think this game said, you know what? We know what's hard. We know what's frustrating about this game. Here are at least some tools for you to deal with that sort of thing. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot.
Now, I will say, in some ways, though, the game is sort of a one-trick pony. In that, I mean, this game, well, let me finish. It's a good trick. But, I mean, almost all the levels are bouncing around on ledges and rocks and trees and limbs.
Well, yeah, it's an
You're not
action
going to be,
platformer.
but I mean, they don't really vary the gimmick that much.
I think you fight a ton of different enemies.
You do.
You fight a ton of different bosses.
I'm not saying that, but I mean, it mostly, it mostly plays the same throughout.
I mean, are you saying it's an action platformer from beginning to end? Then yes, it does.
It does have a cool ball. It does have bosses on occasion.
Yeah.
Every stage has did you have a favorite one?
All the bats. I love how the bats form together and stuff.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
I mean, the big skull is neat. There are definitely some bosses that you want to have certain weapons. The axe, as soon as you get the throwing axe, you're way more powerful than you were with just the throwing dagger.
Yeah. They don't hide the diamonds. I mean, when I say that, I mean, the levels I got to, granted, you got a lot further than me, so maybe it changes. But I mean, I didn't have too much trouble getting enough to get past the point.
No, as long as you're opening chests and whatnot, it's usually not a problem. There are a couple of places where you might have to grind a little bit.
Yeah, and you can even get down just from repeatedly killing people, but it'd take a long time.
Yeah, you might do that to top off.
Yeah,
but you don't want to. That isn't your primary way of getting them. Getting them, the chests are definitely the way.
The music's cool. It's
Great.
Also got dynamic music when you get hurt up and changes the tune. I thought you got a goodly amount of life. Now, you can go through it in a hurry, but I mean, if this game had like 2 or 3 or even just 1 hit point, this would have been a disaster.
Absolutely.
But as it stands, you do get a goodly amount, but I mean, they can come off quick.
Yes.
So there's that aspect of it.
You can't get generated per se, because you always have some frames of invincibility, but it can put you in a situation that it's worse to stick around than to just flee and come back at a later time.
Is there a point where you actually run out of continues?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. I never got to it. Yeah. You also get things that change your armor color, like
different potions.
Right. And there's food around that'll heal you, which man, I'm all over that when I see it. The funny thing is, some levels they'll have a ton of food, and then you eat the food, and then you need the food later.
Yeah.
You saved all the food, which I learned. So there's a lot of clever stuff. I mean, listen. You could tell when this came out that the people that made it had a clue.
Yes.
You could also tell it wasn't Japanese. Okay?
Yes.
You could absolutely tell that. And there's a reason why this feels like a European platformer, because it pretty much is.
Well, no. I mean, this was developed in the States.
Well, where is Rare located? I thought they were European.
No.
Are they not? I don't know. But it's a very European style adventure game. But in this case, it's very refined. I mean, I'm down with the clown on this one. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it way more now than I did back in my younger days.
This also has the most classic you died thing where your foot kind of dangles over the edge.
Oh, yeah.
That is a classic animation.
Yeah. I like that.
Absolutely.
The knight looks good. I mean, he's not too comical, but he's not too serious. It's the whole game is sort of like that.
Yeah,
really.
the bucket helmet I think is kind of amusing.
Yeah.
Back in the day when this first came out, it came out to moderately good reviews. This came out in a time that was over the top good games.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness, this was the heyday for the NES. But this came out to 7s and 8s. It did win some awards from like Nintendo Power Magazine, or at least was nominated. I shouldn't say that it won. Most people look back at this game fondly. It did get a couple sequels. Like I said, this was one of the first fully Western developed games. And because of that, they had a character that they could claim as their own, which allowed them to do more with them and keep more of the money from doing things with them. The sequels are, for the most part, more of the same, which is a good thing and a bad thing. I'm not a big fan of Iron Sword, but that doesn't make it a bad game. It's just this has more nostalgic value for me.
Yeah.
And for a game like this, that really helps push it over the top.
Yeah, this game, I think it holds up quite nicely. It's a good-looking game. You know, did this series ever make it out of the 8-bits on anything else? I mean, did they make? Are there even portable versions of this?
Oh, there is a handheld version of this.
Yeah.
On the Game Boy. I think it was the Game Boy, not the Game Boy Advance. But it also got a Tigra Electric type of game.
I don't mean that.
Yeah, but it did branch out. Like I said, since they fully own the IP,
Yeah.
they were definitely more willing to give it out than some of your Japanese IPs.
I don't know. A lot of Tigers or electronics come from Japanese properties. So you're saying that this never, like, there was no Super Nintendo or Genesis or anything like that? Doesn't that surprise you? Because I think this is a pretty well-known, popular game, wasn't it?
I'm trying to think back. I think that all of the sequels did come out in the 8-bit. Because this was fairly... I mean, not right on the cusp.
Yeah.
This was a fairly early on in the 8-bit era, so it had enough room to grow there where it did.
Fair enough. Then I thought it was, like I said, overall, I enjoyed it. I mean, and also not sucking as much didn't hurt. That made me happy. That made me happy with it. We didn't get any reviews this week of short weeks.
Sure,
We
yeah.
didn't get to announce these till too late. But overall, I think that was a pretty good choice there to Brent on that one. So I went in a whole different direction.
Yes.
And I'm going to explain why. And I don't normally do this on this show, but I went back to my roots, and my roots are in the Amiga. So my game this week was an Amiga game, and it's called Castle Warrior. So I'll tell you how I came across this. So I like the old RMC, Retro Man. Well, he doesn't call it by that anymore. Neil from RMC. And he had one of these, him and his arcade buddy had one of these grand opening where they talk about all the crap they've gotten in the cave. And one of the games he picked to show off was a game called Castle Warrior, which was this game. I never heard of it. And he showed a couple clips from it. I was like, man, that looks really cool. Of course, he didn't kill it verbally. He's like, this game's no good. He said he only bought it because of it was published by someone who only did 2 games on the Amiga. We'll get to that. So anyway, I was like, man, that looks like it might be fun. I'm going to go with that one. That's how I picked the game. So thanks, Neil. This is your fault if you don't like it. And he already said he didn't like it. So Amiga game this week, Castle Warrior, released in 1989, 24-pound, 99p. So pretty much, I think that's full price.
Full price for release, yeah.
Another reason I wanted to pick this one, developed by Delphine, Brent. Let's go over there. Let's see which game doesn't belong here. You got Another World, or Out of This World, Flashback, Future Worlds, Cruise for a Corpse, the James Bond Stealth Affair, and Castle Warrior. That's what they developed on the Amiga. So I think we've covered on this show every one of those games except this one on Amigo. So I'm picking up the spare here with this one. This was also, now get this, and this is an oddity. Everyone says that Delphine self-published this game. Okay, now they didn't publish too many games. They only published Bio Challenge and Shaq Fu, the old Shaq Fu, Brent. But Neil on his show had the box for this game, and it was published by Electrocoin. All right, Electrocoin, who their only other published work is Do Run Run, Boats game. So they only, but according to Neil and other sources, they only published those 2 games on the Amiga. However, I found evidence that this game had been published by Delphine, Electrocoin, and Palace, and Mindscape. All right,
Wow.
so I don't know who all published this game, but Lemon and Hollow Light only have it being published by 2 different people, but other sources had differences, so your mileage may vary on what version you've got. This came on 1 disc, 1 to 2 players hot seat, and this game was the concept of a fellow named Michael Sportouch. He didn't do a ton of stuff on the Amiga. He did Space Harrier Return to Fantasy Zone, which I didn't heard of that one either. So the coder on this was Jesus Martinez. Now listen to this. He did one of the games we covered here, Baby Joe. Remember Baby Joe on our Baby episode?
Okay.
He did that one. You don't remember it, do you? He was also involved in James Bond Stealth Affair. And then the other coder, Philippe Chastel, who worked on Cruise for a Corpse and Dragon Ninja, a.k.a. Bad Dudes for the Amiga, another one of the games we like. So these guys had some good experience. The music on this was done, and we'll get to the music, was done by Jean Badlow. He actually did the music for the game me and Bo will be looking at soon called Beach Volley, and a bunch of the other games for Delphine. So a lot of the guys on this were well-traveled, well-versed in the Amiga and working on it. This was an OCS game, by the way, so that's kind of neat. And so what is the game itself? Well, let's get to the nitty-gritty here, the Brent. So in this game, you play a warrior. This game comes with a backstory, and the backstory is more or less as follows. You're living this beautiful kingdom, the kingdom of Pacifia. Listen, I'm just telling you. Or Pacifia, if you will. And everyone's happy. Beautiful, glorious kingdom, right? All is well, all right? And there's only one jerk in the whole kingdom.
Wow.
Right? But you know, there's always some jerk in there. And so the jerk happens to also be an evil wizard, you know. There's the magic for my sorcery, for the sword and sorcery. The evil wizard Xandor. He lives in Pacifia. So what do you do with this guy? Well, you're in Pacifia. They're not going to execute him or anything. So they banish him somewhere so far away from everyone else, they're like, I'll be all right. They put him on his mountain.
Wow.
You know? Well, guess what? It's not all right. Xandor wants to control the kingdom. He's pissed off, right? So what's he do?
I'd be kind of ticked too.
Does he turn someone into a frog? Nah. Does he cast a pox on the kingdom? Nah. What do you do when you don't like what's going on with the king? Easy. Poison his food. So somehow Xandor poisons the king's food. The king's poisoned, okay? So here you come into the picture. You're the castle warrior. Your job is to brave all these hideous areas in pursuit of the evil wizard Xandor. And then the goal is to basically smack around Xandor till he gives you an antidote. That's what it says in the book. It doesn't say like he's definitely got an antidote or anything. You got to go get an antidote. You go get it. And so you're off. So you are tasked with this. So again, 1 to 2 players. There's not a whole lot in the way of options in this game. In fact, there's only 2 options. The first option is, do you want 1 or 2 players? And then the second option, which is not a very good option, do you want music or sound effects? Instantly, I was irritated. Again, it's 1989, but here we are. This powerhouse Amiga. I've played all these great games, but they couldn't get it together. Now, so let's talk about what happens if you pick music. The music for this is ill-suited.
Yes.
It's like they went to like the club and they're like, this is like dancier than the Blood Money theme. You know, I mean, it's got the metal drums in it. And someone's going, yeah, one. I'm like, what is this? So you're going down these hallways, fight all these dragons and stuff, and it's a dance beat. Trust me, Bo was turning over in his non-grave. I could hear him complaining about the music from here. It was Euro dance trash at its finest. And the thing is, it wasn't a bad song.
Right.
But for this game, turn the music off.
Yeah, it made
turn it off.
no sense.
Go with the effects. So the first part of this game has you walking down this long tunnel. Okay, now, this game actually radically changes depending on what part of the game you're in. So in the first part of the game, your joystick you use to move up, down, left, and right. And then with your button held, your guy doesn't walk. He swings his sword. So at that point, you're holding down the button to get up, down sword, left, right sword, and all diagonal sword. So you've got full movement of your sword. So what does this mean? That means you're either moving or you're swording.
Well, you're always moving.
No, well, yeah, because you're moving left and right, but you're staying. Your guy automatically walks on this level.
Yeah, you can duck to make him not
right,
walk.
and you can jump too, but you know. So we'll get to it. So as you're going down this long tunnel, you're being accosted on every side. Skeletal hands will come out of the wall and try to grab you. Also, coming towards you, you'll see like little bats fly at different levels, other creatures, and eventually you'll come across like a big snake and something that looks like a lizard man. He throws these balls at you. So what you've got to do is basically avoid or kill the creatures in front of you as you go down the hall. The only times you stop is when you fight the 2 mini bosses and the main boss, okay? So you've got a certain amount of hit points. Once you lose all your health, you're dead, and there is no continue, you're gone. So As you go down the hall, what you've got to do is learn it's sort of like Zaxxon. The different levels stuff comes at. They're basically coming at you from 1 to 3 ways, and then up 1 to 3 levels high or low. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
This part is tough, real tough, extremely tough. I got through it without cheating twice, and it was difficult, real hard. What you've got to do is, on the parts where you stop, you've got to, when the enemy shoots his projectile at you, you've got to basically whack it back at him.
Yes.
Right?
Play Pong with them.
At the end of the level, you actually confront this dragon. He's at the end of the hall in this like cave, okay? And he is coming at you, and you've got to position yourself to throw spears at him. He actually looks cool, and I will say before we get into the gameplay, the game uses this real unique tunneling effect to make it simulate that you're moving down a tunnel. Now, a lot of people would probably be irritated by the fact that you automatically move, but I think that's actually a strength. That's part of the game, and that's something you don't have to control. That was smart. That was a good choice, that part. The bad choice is, well, there's a bunch. One of them is you can't, with your guy in front of you, you can't see projectiles or bad guys coming directly in front of your guy. And so that means you've sort of got to guess, okay? Secondly, when you're moving down the hall and you stop to chop left or right, you've got to, like when that skeletal hands come out, you've got to pretty much stop dead. The whole thing stops. You guy will turn and he'll swing, and you probably won't hit them because you have to be right up on them to hit them. And then you're risking getting hit. Hitting anything with your sword while you're in motion is not easy because it's hard, much like in a Zaxxon, it's hard to guess the exact location of stuff. One thing that they made a big mistake in is in the hallway, you literally can, you don't just move left or right or stay in the center. You could go an extra slot all the way over.
Yeah.
And really, they needed to have the stuff stay in their lanes, and they don't. Also, you can't. The bats are so wide, you can't really tell if they're going to hit you or not, so you're kind of hoping they don't, but they often do. When it comes to the bat and the fireballs back at the enemy, again, you can't see in front of your guy, so and that's where you need to do the batting. Yeah. And so it's a very hit or miss when you're doing the ball batting section. We're going to go through this in sections. So what did you think about this opening section of the game? I
thought it was pretty good. The problems you listed are obvious problems. Not being able to see exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
I feel like they give you enough health to get a feeling for what's going on. I mean, yeah, you might have to play it a couple times. I mean, you get multiple lives.
Right.
It's not like 2 or 3 hits and you're dead. You can take a vast amount.
But they start you over, which is irritating.
Yeah. Swinging left or right is completely useless.
Well, unless you're going after the hands.
No, but why? Why would you ever do that?
Well, because sometimes the hands are out and there's bats coming. You have to hit something.
No, you just
jumping is not an option.
No, jumping is dumb. Ducking is dumb.
Yeah, ducking is
because although you have the ability to duck, you can't judge well enough to duck something.
Yeah.
The sword play, when you're attacking things in front of you, at least you feel powerful.
Yeah.
I made a grievous error and actually chose to. I stuck with the music because the first opening tune is pretty jazzy and get you kind of pumped up. Unfortunately, just not pumped up to play this game.
What did you think about the hall effect on this? It's pretty cool. I mean, for that long ago.
I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
I didn't have many problems with this stage after I realized you're going to get hit. Just accept it. Figure out what does the least amount of damage.
Yeah.
And that's really what you want to. If you're going to cheat to something, that's what you want to cheat to. Never, because you have 5 lanes, never go to the extreme lanes.
Yeah,
because
I couldn't find any reason.
A ton of damage.
The only thing you can do is if there's no hand and you're avoiding, and for some reason the bat you think might be overlapping the center. I like the way it looks. But I mean that was fundamentally they didn't do a good job with the gameplay.
I thought it was okay because it was different enough that I gave it a pass on a lot of things.
So let's
the boss at the end. The big red dragon
of the first level, yeah.
Yeah, I thought was neat.
Yeah, he's cool. He looks great, doesn't he?
Throw in the spears. is fun.
Yeah, it's not bad.
The issue is when you hit him, he gets a certain amount of invincibility.
Yeah.
I felt like it was too long because you can never get to a position where you throw 2 spears in a row.
Right.
Because there's no point because he won't take the damage anyway. And I wanted to throw 2 spears in a row.
Although really, it's hard to chuck 2 real quick anyway. But yeah. So, but I like he looked cool. I thought that was okay. So the second level has you canoeing through an underground river. Mm-hmm. Now in this one, this reminded me a lot of this game reminded me of Dragon's Lair in a way.
No.
You know, well, I mean, what do you mean, the skeletal hand,
No.
the fact that you're in an underground river?
No.
I mean, gameplay wise, it didn't.
No.
So anyway, on this level, the controls are much different. So in this one, the only thing you need to use your button for is to activate your shield, and you move it up over your head or to the side. So the reason is, as you get to the cavern, you're going to come across stalactites. Stalactites, they're razor sharp. They come down on your guy in his canoe.
Stalagmites.
No, stalactites, hold on tight.
Okay.
Stalagmites come up from the floor. Trust me, I know. So, and the other, now, at first I thought, well, that's not too bad. Well, then, because the other way you can hold your shield is diagonally to the right, or to the left. Excuse me.
Right, yeah.
And why would you do that? Well, that's because a fish will jump out of the water, and he can get you from that angle. Now, aside from that, again, you're on a hard roll. So your guy's always going forward, but you can control whether he's left or right, and you're doing that to avoid rocks and slimes. And you can also avoid the falling stalactites that are coming down. This level gets tough. I mean, really, as you go through it, it gets pretty difficult. You have to, and the thing is, your guy's reaction time is sort of realistic, not good. He's real slow bringing that shield up, and so when you see a stalactite ahead of you, you sort of have to anticipate that it's going to fall.
But you also, the game doesn't allow you just to hold your shield out.
Right.
It is an action. You pull your shield out, you block for a few moments, and then you put the shield away.
Yeah.
So you can't just row down the river with the shield above your head.
Right. And you're going to come across, aside from the rocks, aside from the fish, aside from the stalactites, you've also got to deal with these kind of green slime things that go through the water. I mean, this is another good-looking level. I really enjoyed the look of it. I enjoy this has a little, I know you're a big fan of Trojan with the shield. You get a little shield action. They're very dissimilar otherwise. But I did like this level. I thought it was kind of interesting. Again, fundamentally, what I call it, I think it's interesting. I like the idea of it. Is it fun? That's probably not, it's not the funnest thing. This whole game is sort of like that. Like, they were on the right track, but didn't quite get there with it. But I thought this was okay. What did you think?
I thought this was the most fun that I had in the game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the controls. You don't have lanes anymore. You row slow. You're not going to go from left to right in an instant. It's a slow paddle to maneuver. It felt good. Pulling the shield up to stop the things from falling on your head felt good. Having it crush into your shield has a nice animation. The red fish probably does a little bit too much damage because you get no warning that they're there.
Yeah.
A little bubble up before he jumps out would have been nice. The green slimes, sometimes they have things living in it, sometimes they don't.
It looks like they throw an eyeball at you or something.
They spit an eyeball at you. It's not much of a danger, but you can put your shield up and block it as well. The rocks keep you on your toes, moving left to right. I actually really like this level. I had fun playing this level.
It looks good, doesn't it? I mean, listen, I was wondering how you're going to react to this game. Because I could absolutely see how people would hate it, okay? But I am enamored with this graphical effect. It's a good-looking effect, and they use it to a decent degree.
Yes.
In the game, So I give them a pass on that. So once you get past that level, okay, you're moving on, and now it's time to do another spear level, okay? This time you're taking on, what would you call this guy? Giant, like, three-eyed aqua beast or something at the end of the hall. I mean, this is sort of more of the same, but he's tougher than the dragon.
I didn't get past this guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did but I cheated.
Oh, well, I don't do that.
But I would have never gotten here without cheating.
Oh, I got to this guy without cheating.
Oh, wow, well done.
But he does a ton of damage.
And he also spits other hymns.
Yeah.
Like small, like, I don't know if they're babies or I don't know what's going on.
And they do usually 3 hits and you're dead on this guy. And again, the fight feels exactly like the dragon. You throw a spear, you have to wait for his invincibility to go away before you can throw another one.
Yeah.
The pattern
He's
with his
a lot
hands
tougher, though.
are very, he does one and then he does the other, does one and then does the other. But that's not the problem. The things that he's spitting out they don't home, but they go to where you've either been or where you're at. And he throws multiple at a time, so it's very difficult.
Yeah. By the way, I should mention that according to the documentation, the dragon is named Alasos, and the weird aqua creature is named Jibba.
Sure.
Jibba, the aqua creature. Again, this part of the game, it was well. There's no scrolling on the monster levels, but they're cool looking. Everything's large. It looks interesting. The artwork is nice. The movement on your guy looks good. I think your guy looks pretty good overall. I mean, he's not the most. He doesn't have like a million frames of animation, but I mean, I think he looks pretty good, especially in the canoe level. I thought he looked particularly good. So at this point, you're off to confront Xandor. Now, the Xandor level is interesting. Let's just go there. You come out over like a chasm, and there's sort of like half of a bridge there, and then a big empty gap. And Xandor comes in lowered in like a Professor X chair out of the skeleton mouth. He's in he's got a cool robe, and he's shooting fireballs at you.
Lightning bolt.
Well, he does both. And I mean, I really calling his fireballs is a fair. They look more like little red balloons, Luft balloons. And so your goal, first of all, you can run right off the edge of the platform and you die. Okay, so you can't go to the tippity edge. It's very difficult to hit, but you can only hit him when he moves his Professor X chair near you. And in the meantime, he's just pummeling you with stuff. I don't know how anyone would get past this without being a super duper cheater like I was, but I thought the room looked cool, and I thought he looked cool. Now, there's a funny thing at the end of this level. This game gets a little wackier as you go. So, once you kill Xandor, remember, you're trying to save the king from food poisoning. A potion appears in his chair.
Yeah.
So, he had it on him, You'd have to rough him up. So, he turns to a skeleton. But you can't the potion doesn't come to you. Now, you've got to get on the Professor X chair. All right. So many times I tried to jump to the chair, but you can't jump. There's no forward jump. So you have to wait till the chair comes right up to the ledge. You just walk onto it, and then the whole chair goes back from where it came. So you go back up into the mouth. And I thought to myself, am I going to get chewed up by this devil, this demon skull or whatever? So normally you think to yourself, well, there goes Xandor. We're out of here. Game over. This is one of the few games that makes you get back to the kingdom and on probably the hardest part of the game. So once you've got the antidote, it's time to be on the flying dragon. This sounds cool, and it's not uncool, but it's probably the least spectacular of the levels, I would say. And they didn't put a ton of effort into this one, I don't think. This is the sort of like the 3D shooter of the proceedings.
Sort of Panzer-like, really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, kinda. So you're in a cloud, you're over the clouds, and stuff attacks you, okay? And you're shooting it. This is shot from behind the dragon, so you see the back of the dragon and your guy, and then you see the dragon's head, but you can't. Much like the other sections of this, you can't really see anything that's happening in front of you. And much worse here is that the dragon is huge and you're on the dragon. Yeah. So the stuff, and you're fighting sky snakes and centipedes, basically. And so it's real tough. And it also goes on forever.
Yeah.
This level, you didn't get to play this level?
No, but I watched it.
It goes on and on and on and on. I mean, I was surprised how well it went on. I'm assuming that since the guy that made this concept for this worked on Space Harrier, that he got some of the ideas for this from Space Harrier. This is probably the most. This sort of reminded me of the part of Awesome when your ship turns and you see the back of it and there's that worm thing's coming out, but that's way, 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 way better than this.
Yeah.
This is I thought, despite the fact that you're on a flying dragon and that's cool, I thought this was the lamest part. What are your thoughts?
Well, I didn't get to play this.
Yeah.
But I know watching the playthrough, this did go on forever.
Yeah.
I mean, it went on so long. When I watch it double speed.
Yeah.
And I got to the point I was like, okay, I'm just going to. I started skipping ahead 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And I probably did that 15 times and it was still going. I was like, oh my gosh.
It goes on forever. And the thing is, you'll get the waves of the sky worms and something. Eventually, you get the sky devils who look dopey and like they're out of place. And then eventually, and at the end scene, I timed it perfectly. Your guy, literally, this is a VTOL dragon. He comes straight down and then lands you at the king's throne. And the last part of the game. It's just you hand the king this potion, and that's it. You don't even see him drink it or nothing. That's kind of
well, you assume he drank it.
I will say,
the king looks pretty healthy there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He's wearing all his armor and crap. I will say one thing. After you beat the game, I got to put my name in the #1 spot directly over Jesus. So I felt like I'd really accomplished something when you do something like that. So real quickly, let's talk about how this was scored. The people over at Lemon did not like this game. 3.41. They hammered it. And
out of
10.
No,
I looked at these scores just to go on a quick run through. Amiga Action 52%, Amiga Computing 45, Amiga Format 53. Stunningly, Amiga Joker 65, more than anyone, which is unlike them. AUI 60, CU 47. The 61. The average magazine score for this was 57, which is still almost double what the people at Lemon gave this. I mean, this was roundly despised by everyone. And I looked at the magazines, and they were killing this. I thought, man, in 89, I'd seem like this would be an okay game. Now, does it have a ton of replayability? No. But you can compete for score. It does have 2 players. I'm saying you could.
No one's playing this for score.
You could. But I will say, this is a game, I mean, that I thought visually was quite remarkable, parts of it. And parts of it were sort of fun. And the concept of this could have been made into something really fun. I just think they lost their way somewhere down the line.
Well, I have a couple big problems.
Go ahead.
It has nothing to do with gameplay.
All right, go ahead.
First of all, my very first time playing it, I made it 2/3 the way through the game.
You did better than me. That first level was tough.
That is way too short of a game.
Yeah.
Way too short.
That's why they tacked on the 25-minute ending.
The not being able to see through your guy, I mean, that's a choice you made. I think they had too many thoughts of, you're going to be ducking under these fireballs and jumping over the bats and stuff. That never happens.
Yeah.
And when something never happens in your game, you need to go back and take it out. Because your players aren't going to enjoy that. They're not going to have... I never jumped to succeed.
And the thing is...
I never jumped to succeed.
The thing about the jumping, that you could have used that. It's simple. You do what they did in, like, Sword of Sedan. Just roll some logs or pillars. Something like that. It just something to jump over.
Yes.
Or a pit. Jump over the pit. Something like that. The problem is you don't jump forward. You just jump straight up.
Straight up, yeah.
And that was throughout the whole game. And that's a difficult thing to get a grip on, you know.
The depth, while a really neat effect, they needed... The floor is gridded. So that and everything casts the shadow, so that kind of helps judge where things are. But it was too often, so I would get hit by something that I thought was still several tiles away. Or the far more frustrating thing is I would be swinging at something, swinging, and I felt like it just went right through my sword, right through me, and right out the back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there was a problem with the hit detection, or maybe it really wanted me lined up absolutely perfectly.
Yeah.
A game like this, you need to have a little bit of slop.
You know what I would like to have seen, and this would have been tough to do with what they had. Get rid of your guy. Just have a sword.
No,
and hold on. Get rid of the guy. Just you see his sword or maybe his hands. All right, and that way you can see the stuff coming, and then you can have a fair shot at whacking it.
No, I mean,
It was too hard. The concept was good, but if you're going to do a game where you've got stuff in direct line with the guy, you know there's going to be parts, or make him transparent or something resembling that on the Amiga. But you can see my point.
I
there.
understand what you're saying, but I don't think there's. I think they should have solved it through game design. I think the concept they had was fine. They just need a better game design. Swinging left and right, I never did it because it was never a point that I needed to.
That's probably why I had so much trouble with the first level. And I do like the fact you get a couple mini bosses on the first level.
Yeah.
And they were cool looking. I liked whacking the thing back at them, but I mean, I didn't like it at the same time. I'd like to have seen more stuff done like the rowing level. You know, that could have been, they could have done more with that concept. You know, I thought that was kind of neat.
Well, that was the best level because all of your movements had purpose.
Right.
Even though blocking the fish from the left or the right was nearly impossible.
Yeah.
It was at least...
Or the eyeball.
I knew... Well, no, the eyeball you block over top.
I tried to move like one of that.
At least I knew that fish is going to come from the left. I'm going to put my shield out and I can block it. The fish came out too fast. It should have had bubbles. This game encompasses the if the devs would have done a little bit more. And I would assume that this was... It's gotten to a point... Okay, get it out the door. We're done. I don't know that. I don't know the history of the game. But this is something that if it was tweaked a little bit more and 3 times the length, could have been a fun game.
My guess is someone fell in love with the graphical scrolling and tried to build a game around it, and either the know-how or the technology wasn't there to pull it off. It happens, but
Very
still,
possible.
This is absolutely something I would recommend people take a look at. Now, if you wanted to buy this, and by the way, with this being on RMC this week, it's probably going to raise the rates. So I found this all over the place, but it was not cheap. And you can get these in France, 50 bucks, and these are non-negotiable. Italy, 80, 75, and 75 bucks. The Netherlands, 60 bucks. I hadn't seen any of these that had sold recently. Now, this also got released on the ST. If you go for that one, you can get that in the UK for 40 bucks. So you can always get the box is the same with a different sticker. So you can always go that route. It's a neat one. I actually enjoyed it to a certain degree, but it's not what I would want to go back over and over. This is something you like play on stream. Say like, look at this, everybody, and then you never come back. Never come back to it again because it's fundamentally broken. And you know what you do with something that's fundamentally broken. There's only 2 things you can do. You either go back and try it again, or you get someone competent to fix it for you.
Someone like Retro Rewind?
Where's your sign at?
It's right here, Aaron. What's wrong? Why don't you see it?
I don't know. But one thing we can all agree on is that if you need something fixed, fundamentally or otherwise, you should see Frank at RetroRewind.ca. Why is that? Because Frank and his crack staff have literally decades of experience at repair, and they've got it on the top level of the top rung of the ladder, Brent, the tippy top. These guys can fix it. They know how to fix it. They've fixed it a million times, so you don't have to, and they'll do it at good rates because they're up in Canada, the Great White North. Nice, amiable folk up there. They like to take care of people. Now,
absolutely.
If you're a kind of guy that likes to repair stuff on his own, they'll set you up with diagnostic carts, cap kits, the whole 9 yards. Plus, they're full service, brother. You need your Coco to have an SDC. You need SD solutions for your Commodore machines. Bam, you're in. Do you need ROMs for your Amiga? Do you need accelerator boards? Frank's your hookup, brother. That's RetroRewind.ca. We'll be seeing Frank and his crack staff at Boat Fest next week.
Yes.
It's going to be awesome, Brent. What do you got on the wheel this week?
Aaron, we added for the Retro Rewind the Auric.
You know, and what did you not get rid of?
Lord.
If Chat Choice comes back up, I'm going to feed you that wheel. I'm just telling you that right now. Go ahead.
Kind of looks like
Although this was a good one this week. Here we go. Round
One trying to make a break for
Man,
it.
Has that ever happened where one flew away? And the winner is, bam, what do we got?
We have CPS-1 Arcade.
CPS-1 Arcade.
Yes.
Man, we've done the CPS-2 a couple times. We haven't done the 1 all that often. So that might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be a good time.
Good time.
Listen, everybody, you know, we mentioned it, but as of the recording of this show, when this gets released, you will literally have less than a week until Boat Fest 2023. Boat Fest 2023, the premier retro gaming and retro computing show in Hurricane, West Virginia. Accept no substitutes. Sure, there's all kinds of retro gaming conventions happening in the tri-state, but there's only one King Dong brother, and that's the Big B, the Boatster, Boat Fest 2023. Are you excited about this bad boy?
Aaron, don't praise the other conventions.
I don't know any others, to be honest with you. So, but this is the King Dong. So we hope to see you. Listen, we still have tickets available at the door. So if you're thinking to yourself, I might come, maybe not, we could probably take care of you. Come on down. We should have enough to cover a dozen people that might want to show up, something like that. But you never know. I would order them now, but I hate somebody drive all this way and then no tickets. But I think we've got enough to cover you at the door. If you're on the fence, come on down. Give me your best Boat Fest shot here. What you talk them in? You're just sitting there with a dumb look on your face. What do you do? What do you say to people to get them to come to the Hurricane?
See, Aaron's not pushing the right things. We're gonna have auctions. We're gonna have tournaments.
You're pushing that because you're running both those.
We're gonna have tournaments. We're gonna have prizes.
Yeah.
We're gonna have live tapings.
Yeah.
So if you want to throw things at Aaron, you can. We're gonna have.
Hopefully it's food.
We're gonna have knowledgeable people on site. So if you have questions, you can get them answered.
Like me, the sketchy tech.
It's good times, and you get to see everyone that makes Amigos run.
That's right. It's funny. Rob Flack O'Hara, I just typed in live tapings with question marks. Rob Flack O'Hara will be here, and he'll actually be doing a live taping with me. We're going to have some booze on the table, and then we're going to tell funny stories. That's what I've been told. So that should be a good time. It will be fake booze. We can't afford the good stuff. O'Doul's or something like that. So, with all that said, next week, Brent, we'll be back at it with... what are we talking?
CPS-1.
CPS-1. You know it's gold. By the way, we own a couple CPS-1 boards.
Yeah.
We may still own some.
One real quick thing.
Yeah.
If you are a ARG Presents supporter, and you have been supporting before June 1st, send me your address. Or if you're coming to Boat Fest, just come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm here for
give me my goodie."
My goodie. So I don't have to.
So you're going to give it to them right on the spot?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
do I get a goodie?
No. Are you a?
I support you. Just by
are you a Patreon, Aaron? No, you're not.
I'm on there.
If you're a Patreon, you've donated at least $10 throughout your entire life, which I believe is everyone. And you were a subscriber as of June 1st. Send me your address. I got a goodie package coming your way. You're not gonna want to miss it. It's crazy.
There you go. So this will be the last time.
And ARG merch.
Oh yeah,
Boat Fest.
Yeah, that'll be that. Finally, it's about time. This will be the last time we have to mention Boat Fest. So please see us at Boat Fest.
No.
Until then, what do you mean? This is the last show before Boat Fest. This is it.
It's not.
The next one's going to be at Boat Fest. The next show we do will be the show that'll be coming out after Boat Fest.
No, we've got one that's coming Sunday.
All right, there's a couple more. I don't know. Trust me, this is the last one. I'm out. I'm done. It's too hard to keep track. You know what I mean? Boat Fest. Good night, everybody.